Hey friends, I'm Lia Scholl, pastor of First Friends Meeting here in beautiful Greensboro. And today I am talking about Jesus's temptation. It's Matthew chapter 4. Feel free to take just a moment, pause me, and go read it if you like. Otherwise, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. In 2001, a new television show called Temptation Island premiered. The premise was this: four couples, all in love, wanted to test their relationships, or maybe get famous, I guess, whichever. They went to Temptation Island, where the men from the couples go live with 12 women, all strangers, and the women from the couples live with 12 men who are all strangers. I'm sure you can imagine what these young adults do. They flirt, they kiss, they hook up, they create a lot of pain in their relationships because their partners get to watch the videos of all of their flirting and kissing and hooking up. It's really, really, really messy. And I wonder why anyone would go to a place called Temptation Island. We do, face temptations in our daily lives. Somehow they are less insidious than Temptation Island. We don't set ourselves up for that kind of betrayal, but temptation does happen. And I believe that this world is set up to tempt us. But I do also think our temptations are much more subtle. We heard about Jesus's temptations. They were not subtle. Led by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness, Jesus fasted. The text says 40 days and 40 nights, which is the Greek Jewish way of saying a really long time. A significantly long time, long enough that it matches the 40 days and 40 nights of rain that Noah spent on a boat. Long enough that it reminds us of the Hebrew people's long sojourn in the wilderness, 40 years. Long enough that it reminds us of the 40 years that each king of Israel spent on the throne. 40 years of Saul, 40 years of David, 40 years of Solomon. 40 days and 40 nights is a long time, and Jesus is very hungry. And we meet what in English our text calls the devil. The root word of this noun is balo. It means to throw or cast, like ball or ballistic, but also like anabolic, metabolic, and parabola. Together with the prefix dia, so the whole word is diabola, it literally means to throw through. In other contexts, it means slanderous, backbiting. And so this is a being, if you will, and this being is a mocker, a slanderer, a libelous being. The word is found 38 times in the New Testament, and 5 of them, diabola, are in Matthew. Anna Case Winters, in her commentary on Matthew, says this: if we reflect theologically on this personification of evil, it is a way of imaging or symbolizing a phenomenon that is very real in our lives. It names a reality that does not go away simply because we demythalize it. We know something of what it is to be possessed as individuals and as entire societies with such things as insatiable greed, unmitigated anxiety, unexamined prejudice, and lust for power. Ordinary people, she says, can be turned into brutal, bloodthirsty mobs or simply into people who are coldly indifferent to injustice and the needs and suffering of others. What if this personification of the devil is, in fact, those things? Insatiable greed, unmitigated anxiety, unexamined prejudice, and lust for power. These are the very real influencers in Jesus's life, and they are really the expectations that others put on Jesus. And what they saw was his work as the Messiah. The messianic promise was one of wealth, peace, supremacy, and power. And Jesus was going to have to face those temptations every day in his ministry. What the Diabola offers to Jesus is personal comfort, personal safety, and finally, unbridled power. Can't you imagine that Jesus, on his way to begin his ministry, is concerned about those things, his comfort, his safety, and his agency? And aren't they all things that he lost in the end? Of course, those temptations are tempting to us also, but differently. I think we're tempted by comfort also. We believe that we have a right to emotional and psychological comfort. Now, I'm not talking about a right to a pillow in your bed or a cushion under your bum. I'm talking about the kind of comfort that makes change uncomfortable. That we have a right to not feel uncomfortable by words or by actions of others. It's especially something that means that we cannot tolerate conflict. But y'all, all of change requires discomfort and conflict. There is no growth without conflict. The best way to combat this kind of temptation, this temptation to avoid conflict, is to remember not to take things personally. So much so that this is one of Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. Don't take things personally. Another temptation is either or thinking. Wouldn't life be so much simpler if we could just label good people and bad people, right and wrong decisions with us or against us as groups? Sure, it would be simpler perhaps, but it would be lonelier and angrier and harder. So how do we deal with the temptation to oversimplify into either or thinking? Here's how we do it as Quakers. We slow things down. We look for more than 2 solutions to any problem, and we encourage those around us to not simplify issues or their considerations. And I think finally we face the temptation, and I know every married person and parent and even supervisor faces this, of I'm the only one. If something is going to be done, I'm going to have to do it, especially the one we hear so often. If you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. Y'all, teamwork makes the dream work. In order to face that temptation of individualism, we have to keep coming back to the community. And this is so Quaker, as you know. But we still try to do things on our own. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the clerks of committees doing the lion's share of the work. The clerk's job is to facilitate, not dictate, and to delegate, not dominate. That's when we ask the question, what's my motivation? Do I want the accolades? Do I want the credit? Do I want the praise of having done this by myself? And if we want to change that temptation, what we have to do then is be motivated to give others the credit, to give others the chance to experience the praise. And it is also our job to thank them and to be grateful for them. So we've heard about 3 common temptations, and I wonder how you're tempted. What are the ways that you are tempted in this system that we live in that are similar to Jesus's temptations? Why don't you take a few minutes and just think about it? And think about also how you face those temptations, how you keep from falling into those temptations, how you escape the temptation island. I love you and I love being your pastor, and I'll see you soon.